a large group of people, after taking a tour with the butler, reluctantly left. Although the place was lovely, it was Zhao Yu's mansion. Given Lu Siyu's relationship with Zhao Yu, it was understandable for her parents to stay. However, allowing a large group of relatives to stay might be considered inappropriate, bordering on usurping the house. Lu Siyu's parents didn't stay either. They felt that since Lu Siyu and Zhao Yu weren't married yet, living here might stir gossip. After all, the house belonged to Zhao Yu, and they feared moving in without his consent might affect Lu Siyu's relationship with him. After discussion, those who needed to return home and those who needed to continue to school went on. Lu Siyu, along with her 3 roommates and Song Han, were all seated in a business car sent by the Su family. Zhao Yu stayed in the Ice Snow City for another day. After confirming that the Su family had prepared everything as agreed, he headed to the Su residence. This time, he was meeting the core members of the Su family. In addition to the A/Ister Su, there were 3 daughters from the main lineage of the Su family. Among them was Su Xiaoxiao, the youngest daughter. Zhao Yu was fairly familiar with the Su family's core members by now. The Su family's empire wasn't built by Mr. Su alone, but was a combined effort spanning over 4 or 5 generations. By the time it reached Mr. Su, the scale of the side branch had already become very large. Mr. Su had 3 daughters. He used to have sons too, but sadly they all passed away at a young age. The eldest daughter was named Su Wangyu, in her 30s and already married. However, her husband had died unexpectedly years ago, leaving no heir. The second daughter, Su Qingqing, also married but unfortunately passed away from excessive alcohol consumption on her wedding day. Over the years, the Su family business was partly managed by Su Wangyu and Su Qingqing, while the rest was managed by the side branches of the family. The butler Su who spoke with Zhao Yu was the son-in-law of the family Su, who married the sister of Master Su. After investigating, Zhao Yu discovered that the Su family was not invincible and was currently in a precarious situation. It's not that the Su family lacked male descendants. On the contrary, there was a substantial number of males in the extended branches of the family. However, the direct lineage only had 3 daughters left. The Master Su was getting on in years, and although his influence was still palpable, he would eventually have to step down and relinquish his power. This gave the extended branches of the Su family other ideas. On the surface, they were respectful and deferential, but behind the scenes, they were plotting to take over the Su family. Master Su naturally saw all of this. Although he was displeased, he felt powerless to change anything. After all, he had no son, and his 3 daughters hadn't even provided him with a grandchild. Upon entering the room, Zhao Yu noticed only Mr. Su and his 3 daughters present. Only butler Su was absent. After some brief introductions, Zhao Yu sensed a hint of resentment from Su Xiaoxiao, the youngest daughter. It was probably due to her dissatisfaction with the arranged marriage to him. Mr. Su didn't delve into deep conversations. They briefly discussed the previously agreed-upon arrangements. This meeting was mainly an introduction, with no other significant discussions. At the end of the conversation, the eldest Miss Su, Su Wangyu, pulled Zhao Yu aside. "Zhao Yu, are you familiar with my family's situation?" Su Wangyu's face was expressionless, and her thoughts were inscrutable. Zhao Yu gave a slight nod, replying, "I've heard a bit about it." Without waiting to find out how much Zhao Yu truly knew, Su Wangyu said, "On the surface, Su family appears harmonious, but behind the scenes, there's plenty of underhanded dealings. We 3 sisters can't fully inherit the family business. No one knows what the other Su family will look like once our father passes. Zhao Yu, regarding the businesses allocated to you, you might need to claim and protect them yourself." Oh. Zhao Yu had some suspicions already. The businesses that are going entrusted to you are quite valuable. They were originally managed by one of my cousins, she said. Zhao Yu mentally had expected this. But you don't need to worry too much. They won't make things too difficult for you, Su Wangyu said, though she seemed not fully sincere. During the takeover, will there be any physical confrontations? Zhao Yu asked her. There might be. Will there be casualties? Su Wangyu's gaze flickered, seemingly impressed by Zhao Yu's quick grasp of the situation. After a moment of contemplation, she said, as long as no one from the Su family dies, there shouldn't be any major issues. However, this is under the assumption that you truly hold the value. She added, "One understand. Within 3 days, bullets can be mass-produced." Zhao Yu claimed. Suwang Yu seems to has more to say, but she just let Zhao Yu leave. Zhao Yu wasn't keen on getting involved with the Su family's issues. He just wanted to develop his own business. He headed straight to his mansion. Although he had observed the mansion through surveillance, stepping into it gave an impression of grandeur. The security guards at the entrance immediately greeted him as the master, saving Zhao Yu the trouble of introductions. After a brief chat, he learned they were all arranged by the Su family, consisting of over 10 security personnel and 20-plus maids. Zhao Yu called for Hua Dahai and his team that stand by nearby. He handed over the mansion's security to Hua Dahai's team. Being close to the Su mansion meant there was little danger. With his own people on guard was always better. After everything was settled, Zhao Yu took a tour of the mansion with Hua Dahai and his sister, Hua Xiaoxi. Apart from the main house, there were several other buildings suitable for many residents. Zhao Yu took a brief look and didn't linger. No matter how large a house was, having a place to sleep was all that mattered. After leaving a few of Hua Dahai's men to watch over the mansion, they directly went to claim his businesses. He had braced for a storm, but to his astonishment, the takeover process went incredibly smoothly. Could Su Wang Yu have been wrong? Zhao Yu looked at the vacated factory. He suspected that the side branches of the Su family might be scheming something big. They might have relinquished the industries so easily only because of bigger gains. However, since his contact with the Su family was limited, he was unsure about what their side branches might be plotting. Zhao Yu laughed at himself, thinking he might be overthinking. He wasn't originally from this world, and the technology and skills he possessed couldn't be easily challenged by the likes of the Su family. The factories he had chosen were all meticulously selected, and they were crucial for his future developments. Taking them over without trouble was excellent, as he could now proceed with his robot development plans. Zhao Yu realized that the only thing he could truly trust, given the unpredictable nature of human hearts, were still robots. Fortunately, even though technological progress in this world was slow, there was an existing robot industry. This meant that if he created a new type of robot, it wouldn't seem out of place. Once he had familiarized himself with the factories, Zhao Yu began large-scale renovations. In just 3 days, the bullet factory and robot manufacturing plants were set up. The first batch of bullets was sent to the Su family, fulfilling their initial agreement. After the first-generation robots were manufactured, Zhao Yu immediately replaced manual labor, updating all the factories under his name. At the same time, with the help of Xiao Lu, he installed intelligent recognition features in every factory. Any intruder who entered without his permission would be targeted and attacked by the armed robots stationed there. The first generation of robots, although not highly intelligent, were still far more advanced than conventional armed forces. The Su family was astounded by this, but they never demanded the core technology from Zhao Yu, fearing he might install backdoors in the programs. Once all this was sorted, Zhao Yu finally felt he had a territory free from prying eyes. He could confidently work on even more advanced technology. With most tasks now delegated to Xiao Lu, his artificial assistant, Zhao Yu had some free time. Checking his phone, he noticed many unread messages. Most of them were from women, a few familiar faces, and many newcomers who were interested in him after hearing about his achievements. Ignoring the majority, he read the message from Lu Siyu. Her texts were mainly asking about his availability and expressing her longing for him. Zhao Yu thought for a moment and replied, "I'm free today. I'll come to see you." Next, he read the messages from other acquaintances. Xiao Bingbing consistently reported on Lu Siyu's activities in school, earning Zhao Yu's satisfaction, and they made plans to meet in the evening. When he got Yu Chu Shue's messages, he felt a bit conflicted. "Zhao Yu, I miss you. When are you coming to see me?" Yu Chu Shue was tricky. If she were an ordinary woman, he might have just accepted her, but she was from the Yu family and the fiancée of Huang Zilong. It seemed inopportune to circulate about him being involved with someone else's fiancée just as he was establishing his own family. Noticing that Zhao Yu was online, Yu Chu Shue boldly sent a provocative picture. In the photo, she was draped in a bath towel, tied with ropes, and seated on a chair. Zhao Yu instantly recognized the chair and ropes from their previous encounter. The content was undeniably enticing, making Zhao Yu's heart race. He coughed and decided to ignore any potential fallout, texting her back, "I'll see you at 9 p.m. tonight." The factory was quite a distance from the school. Zhao Yu chose a large SUV, a branded one, worth more than 2 million. Escorted by Luo Dehai, he headed to the school. When entering the school gate, the standard procedure requires car registration first. However, after Zhao Yu mentioned his name, he was allowed in, clearly because the Su family had given prior notice. Zhao Yu didn't bother with the formalities and drove directly inside. Zhao Yu parked the car under the teaching building and sent a message to Lu Siyu. "Are you here?"
I'm downstairs.
Soon, Lu Siyu was peeking down the window of the 4th floor of the teaching building. Zhao Yu waved at her from in front of the car. Her face lit up with excitement, and she rushed down. "Zhao Yu, did you buy a car?" Lu Siyu was amazed. Although she didn't know much about cars, the appearance of this one was very imposing, obviously not cheap. "No, it's a company car. Just drove it over." Zhao Yu smiled and opened the passenger door. "Want to take a ride?" "Yes, yes." Lu Siyu gleefully got into the car. As she buckled her seatbelt, the shape of her outfit changed a bit. Zhao Yu paused for a moment and then started the car, taking a leisurely drive around the school. "Dressed like that, aren't you cold?" While driving, Zhao Yu glanced over at Lu Siyu, noting she was wearing shorts. "A little. Let me warm you up." Zhao Yu tentatively placed his right hand on Lu Siyu's thigh. She shivered slightly but didn't stop him, instead blushing deeply. Zhao Yu grew bolder, chatting casually while caressing her. Her delicate skin felt so smooth. "Zhao Yu, the back seat space in this car is so spacious. Yes, you could even lie down and sleep on it." "Why would I sleep here?" Lu Siyu's thoughts went astray, her face reddening even more, looking shy in a uniquely youthful way. "You could also just nap on it," Zhao Yu casually commented. "You pervert." Lu Siyu pushed Zhao Yu's hand away. He chuckled and shifted, touching her head. "What are you doing?" "I'm not a child." Lu Siyu dodged, not realizing her seatbelt tightened, creating a noticeable bulge. "What are you hiding?" Zhao Yu teased, poking the soft spot. "You idiot dash." Lu Siyu was shocked by Zhao Yu's bold move. Covering her chest with both hands, she exclaimed indignantly. "Didn't you happily call me your husband for these past days? Why can't I even touch you now?" Zhao Yu joked. "It's not the same," Lu Siyu pouted. "Such things are for after marriage." Her voice trailed off, her face showing sadness. "Zhao Yu, are you really going to marry Su Xiaoxiao? Wasn't it you who told me to marry her?" Lu Siyu was at a loss for words. She did indeed persuade Zhao Yu to agree, but if he didn't, her entire family would have been in danger. "If you're not willing, then 1 foot 11 inches, just refuse. Su Xiaoxiao can't compare to you."
No.
Lu Siyu quickly refuted. "You have to marry her, or the Su family will surely cause trouble for us." Zhao Yu patted her head. "Don't worry. Even if she gets my body, she won't have my heart. I only love you." "Cheesy." Lu Siyu complained verbally but felt warm inside. "If we can't get married then?" "Yes. Mentally, I'd want my first time to be with you, but now it seems Su Xiaoxiao will take that."
No.
Lu Siyu quickly raised her small fists, threatening, "Your first time has to be with me. Why not today?" "The back seat of this car seems perfect," Zhao Yu smirked, pointing at the spacious back seat. "That's too impulsive. It's my first time. Shouldn't it be more grand?" Lu Siyu said unhappily. "When do you want to do it?" Zhao Yu asked. "It will definitely be earlier than Su Xiaoxiao. There's also a sense of ritual." She turned her head and whispered, "Zhao Yu, how about I give it to you on your wedding day with Su Xiaoxiao?" "Huh? This?" Zhao Yu didn't expect her to think so far ahead. She was so playful. "Cuckolded Su Xiaoxiao on the day of her wedding?" "On the day of your wedding, before we enter the bridal chamber, 1 foot 11 inches, give myself to you. How about it?" "All right." Zhao Yu agreed immediately. "Why are you like this?" However, Lu Siyu was unhappy. "It's Su Xiaoxiao's wedding day. How could you do such a thing? Why was this woman so troublesome? Then what do you think we should do?" Lu Siyu gritted her teeth and said, Forget it. Let's do it. Only then will I feel better. Honey, why don't you let me have a taste first? What did you call me? What do you want? Lucy, you blushed again. I feel like you're poisoned. Look at this swollen area. Do you want me to help you suck it? Zhao Yu glanced at her chest and smiled. Get lost, pervert. Lucy, you covered her chest with her hands again. The two of them quarreled for a while. Zhao Yu's desire was rising, but Lucy, you did not vent it. This made his body feel abnormally uncomfortable. I wanted to have a meal with you, but something came up at the company, so I have to rush over. Are you in a hurry? Lucy, you was a little reluctant to let Zhao Yu leave. After letting go of her psychological burden, she realized that Zhao Yu was actually quite good, but he was a little lecherous. Yes, I have to go back. All right then. Lucy, you got out of the car and walked to the driver's window. When you go to the office, you have to think of me too. Yes, definitely. Zhao Yu was about to start the car when Lucy Yu suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. Before Zhao Yu could react, she had already skipped far away. It was as if this action made her too ashamed to face anyone. Zhao Yu touched his cheek and could still smell the unique fragrance of a young girl's lips. This woman. Zhao Yu shook his head and took out his phone. He clicked on his contacts and found Xiao Bingbing's column. He typed a message saying, 1 foot 11 inches treat you to lunch at noon. I'll wait for you outside the school gate. Just as he was about to send it, he remembered that Xiao Bingbing and Lu Siyu were about the same age. He might not be able to take advantage of her if he was anxious. She deleted the content and looked for Song Han's contact. Come out now, at the school gate. He sent it over. Immediately. Song Han's reply was very fast, almost a second later. It was as if she had been holding her phone in her hand the whole time. Zhao Yu took a piece of clothing and covered his legs before driving out of the school. Zhao Yu was surprised to find that Song Han had arrived earlier than expected and had been waiting for him at the entrance for quite a while. Song Han looked maturely dressed, wearing black stockings, and her upper body appeared tightly clad, revealing hints of her toned muscles. Such beautiful woman. Zhao Yu felt that her clothes were barely containing her. He immediately drove his car up next to her, and the door opened automatically. Get in. She hurriedly got inside after she confirmed it was Zhao Yu. As the car started moving, Zhao Yu casually asked, Do you usually dress like this? No, Song Han replied. You asked me out, so I went back to the dormitory and changed into this outfit. She wouldn't dare wear such attire at school, but she had prepared this outfit beforehand. Zhao Yu sighed in relief, pressed down on the accelerator, and headed towards the manor. After a short drive, Song Han suddenly said, Zhao Yu, I think there's a car following us. Zhao Yu glanced at the rearview mirror and replied nonchalantly, It's my people, don't worry. She had already guessed as much but felt the silence in the car was too heavy and wanted to strike up a conversation. Seizing the opportunity, she continued, Zhao Yu, why did you ask me out? What's your intention? You. Zhao Yu chuckled, 80,000 a month. Is your previous offer still valid? Song Han felt somewhat disappointed, but she chastised herself. Didn't she initiate this transaction in the first place? Fine, but you have to pay me for the whole year up front. Officially, we'll be considered boyfriend and girlfriend. Money's not a problem. The relationship title is only valid when I'm with you, Zhao Yu replied instantly. Song Han thought of Lu Siyu and realized Zhao Yu was sneaking around behind her back. She was slightly disappointed. She had once thought Zhao Yu was genuinely devoted, but now it seemed not. Okay. Song Han agreed. Zhao Yu reached out towards her black stockings. But before his hand made contact, Song Han grabbed his hand. Where's the money? Zhao Yu was at a loss for words. Do you really think I'd cheat you? Song Han looked serious. My body is pure. Such things are only valuable the first time. How would one know if you're pure or not? Zhao Yu grumbled internally. If it weren't for his frustration with Lu Siyu, he wouldn't have been so eager to meet Song Han. Of course, the fact that Song Han was quite attractive and had a more generous bust than Lu Siyu played a part. Zhao Yu felt she was being stubborn and asked, What's your bank account number? Without hesitation, Song Han reached into her bag and pulled out a bank card. Zhao Yu then took out his phone and made a call. Within moments, he hung up and said, The money's been transferred. Check if you received a notification. Song Han checked her phone and indeed saw a notification for the deposit. Calculated all those zeros made her heart race. She hesitated and then said, Can you drop me off at the bank? I'd like to check. All right, Zhao Yu replied, placing his hand back on Song Han's leg. This time, she did not resist him, and Zhao Yu started touching her. He didn't know whether it was an illusion or not, but he felt that Song Han's body seemed to be trembling. However, Zhao Yu couldn't be bothered with this. He had already paid, so he did what he had to do. Soon, he stopped the car in front of a bank and signaled Song Han to hurry up. Song Han quickly got out of the car and walked towards the bank in her high heels. Watching her silhouette, Zhao Yu felt thirsty. About 10 minutes later, Song Han walked out and opened the car door. Her eyes were red as if she had just cried. Did you cry out of excitement? Zhao Yu joked. For the next year, I'm yours, available anytime. Song Han forced a smile and said, Good. Zhao Yu felt he got his money's worth, pressed the accelerator, and drove away, leaving Hua Dahai his bodyguards behind. In a short while, the car drove back to the manor. Zhao Yu did not stop at the door and went straight to the main residence. Sit down and don't move. Song Han was about to get out of the car when Zhao Yu stopped him. After he got out of the car alone, he went straight to the front passenger seat and opened the door. He then opened the door on her side and lifted her up. My shoes. The moment she stepped out of the door, Song Han's high heels accidentally fell off. This thing can't fall. Zhao Yu stopped, squatted down, and gestured for Song Han to pick it up. Song Han quickly reached out and grabbed the high heels that had fallen off. Zhao Yu took a deep breath of the fragrance before carrying Song Han into the house. Song Han already knew what Zhao Yu was going to do. She was very nervous, but she didn't dare to move. She could only hope that what happened next would be a little more romantic and give her a good memory. As soon as she entered, Song Han's face turned red. There were 3 young women in maid costumes cleaning the living room. As Zhao Yu entered, the 3 of them bowed and shouted in unison, Greetings, master.
Yes.
Zhao Yu ignored them and carried Song Han to the nearest bedroom on the first floor. Song Han's mind was blank. He could only hide his head behind Zhao Yu's shoulder and play dead. Soon, the 2 of them entered the bedroom. Before Song Han could think further, she felt like she was thrown into the air by Zhao Yu. She had just screamed when she was thrown onto the bed in the next second. Immediately after, she discovered that Zhao Yu was like a hungry wolf. His eyes were green as if he would transform in the next second.
Bang!
Just as she was in a daze, the buttons on Zhao Yu's clothes were actually torn open by a primordial force. Song Han saw an object that he had never seen since he was a child. It was a big guy that was beyond imagination. In the next second, Zhao Yu pounced on her. Rip! Ragged cloth flew everywhere. The black stockings had been bought and worn a few times before they were scrapped. Could she claimed it was the first thing she has in her mind? With a hint of nervousness, the cover on her body became less and less, but she could not stop it. Song Han's expression was distorted. She felt as if the world was collapsing, and tears flowed down her face. In the following time, she was like a doll, at the mercy of others. She would lie down, stand up, and kneel down. After what felt like an hour, Zhao Yu finally regained his composure. Is it over? She asked. It's over. Zhao Yu looked around the messy room, especially the red stain on the bedsheet, and was surprised. Are you a virgin? Song Han looked a bit irritated, but thinking of her current situation, she whispered, Yes, I told you before. Zhao Yu recalled that at the beginning, he did feel some resistance, which he forcibly broke through. He had assumed that a woman like Song Han might have had a messy personal life, but it seemed like she had indeed preserved herself to get a good price. Even though their relationship was transactional, seeing Song Han's frail state on the bed made him feel sympathy. He walked forward and hugged her, saying gently, Does it still hurt? Song Han didn't expect Zhao Yu to care about her. She nodded slightly and said, My legs are a little numb. Zhao Yu covered her with a blanket. Stay here for a few days, and rest for a few days. Okay. Song Han thought that Zhao Yu would leave after saying a few words. Who knew that he would stay in the room and tidy up a little before accompanying her. Can I know why you're so desperate for money? Zhao Yu held Song Han in his arm, asked the question he'd been curious about. Song Han told him about her experience visiting her mother's employer's house and the harsh reality she saw. Zhao Yu remained silent, acknowledging that reality can be cruel everywhere. From now on, this room is yours. You can decorate it however you want. Wasn't this the room where Zhao Yu and Lu Siyu stayed? Was he not concerned about what Lu Siyu might say? However, she did not want to think about these things. At least for now, Zhao Yu seemed to have fulfilled her dream. The bedroom was not small. It was more than 30 square meters, even bigger than where she used to live with her mother. And now, this bedroom was hers. Can I decorate it in pink? Song Han asked, her face softening for the first time. Of course, however you want. Zhao Yu patted her head and said with a smile. Then, the two of them lay under the blanket and chatted for a long time until night fell. Song Han felt that his body had almost recovered and she could walk. Only then did Zhao Yu leave. He realized that while Song Han might seem materialistic on the outside, she was genuinely sweet on the inside. If he hadn't made prior arrangements with Yu Chu Shui, he would have wanted to sleep beside Song Han tonight. He quickly drove to the school and headed straight for the Villa District. Hey, isn't that Zhao Yu's car? Inside the beverage shop, Lu Siyu was having milk tea with Chow Bingbing when she suddenly noticed a familiar car driving by. She rushed out to get a closer look, but the car had already driven away. She couldn't make out who was inside. After a moment's thought, she took out her phone and dialed Zhao Yu's number, but he didn't answer. She then sent him a message saying she saw his car at the school and asked if he had come to see her. At this moment, Zhao Yu's phone was on silent, and he didn't notice her messages. This time, he confidently entered the villa area. The guards at the entrance saw his car and didn't even think of stopping him. Smoothly, he drove to the villa of Yu Chu Shui. Once he parked, he expertly scaled the wall and jumped onto the second-floor balcony. With his lock-picking skills, he entered the floor and heard the faint sound of water running. She's taking a shower. A smirk appeared on Zhao Yu's lips, and he tiptoed towards the sound. He gently opened the bathroom door and saw a silhouette of a woman showering with her back turned. Zhao Yu thought to himself, Yu Chu Shui must really be into role-playing. Excited by the thought, he stealthily exited the bathroom and went to the kitchen to retrieve the items he had used before. Initially, he wanted to wait outside the bathroom door like last time, but circumstances were different. Last time was unauthorized. This time, he had permission. Impatient to wait, he sneaked into the bathroom, grabbed a towel, and covered the woman's mouth. Don't scream, or I'll kill you. With more confidence from previous experience, he swiftly moved the woman to a familiar location, although he noticed that she seemed to be struggling more vigorously than expected. This made Zhao Yu even more excited, thinking Yu Chu Shui was really good at acting. Once they were in the desired location, Zhao Yu blindfolded the woman, tying her to a chair, picked up where they left off last time. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of eyes had been following his every move from the living room, even following him to the room's door. Only when certain sounds emanated from the room did the owner of those eyes show a smile. Quietly, the person headed upstairs, feigned a casual walk to the bathroom, and in a regular tone called out, Yuan Yuan, are you done showering? Yuan Yuan? After calling out a couple more times, Yu Chu Shui pushed open the bathroom door. She mumbled to herself as she made her way downstairs, continuing to call out as she went. At this moment, Zhao Yu, who was in the middle of something intense, paused when he heard the noise outside the door. Is that Yu Chu Shui's voice? He suddenly realized that if Yu Chu Shui was outside, then who was the woman inside? His actions slowed as he hastily turned on the light he had initially left off. When the lights came on, an unfamiliar woman, her face stained with tears, was tied to the chair in an awkward position. I got it wrong. Zhao Yu had not expected that there would be another woman in Yu Chu Shui's house. The worst was the timing and her activity. The only mistake was that Zhao Yu never noticed the difference in their body figure. Yu Chu Shui walked into the room. Zhao Yu turned around, and their eyes met. You're here. Yu Chu Shui first looked delighted, but when she saw the woman on the chair, her eyes turned to her. Yuan Yuan? The woman on the chair immediately began to struggle violently. Damn. Zhao Yu quickly grabbed a towel to wrap around his lower body. Yu Chu Shui seemed to understand what had happened and rushed forward anxiously to free the woman from the chair. Boo-hoo. The woman, once released, clung to Yu Chu Shui and cried loudly. Zhao Yu had never expected this turn of events. He quickly approached Yu Chu Shui to ask about the situation. She's my close friend. She came over today, and I never thought you would, Yu Chu Shui said helplessly. Zhao Yu felt a twinge of annoyance. He had arranged with Yu Chu Shui, and she let another woman in during this period. How could he have expected that? Chu Shui, do you two know each other? The woman calmed down slightly, asked in disbelief. He's my boyfriend, Yu Chu Shui said with a resigned look. What? The woman was startled and not expecting this situation. If Zhao Yu had just been some random thug, she would have simply dealt with him. But now, Zhao Yu finally spoke up. Don't worry. I'll take responsibility for what happened today. Get out now. After knowing the relationship between Zhao Yu and Yu Chu Shui, she became bolder and shouted at him. You go out first. I'll talk to her. Yu Chu Shui asked Zhao Yu to give them some space. Zhao Yu could only leave and stand by the door. His mood was entirely ruined by this interruption. After a moment, he contacted Xiao Lu to help him check the surveillance footage of the villa area and Yu Chu Shui's chat records. After reviewing them, Zhao Yu found something fishy. He learned that the woman, named Ning Yuan, was indeed a close friend of Yu Chu Shui, but her arrival was scheduled before the time he and Yu Chu Shui had set. Moreover, various other details indicated that Yu Chu Shui might have done this on purpose. What was she up to? Zhao Yu's initial guilt seemed to have diminished. He was curious to find out what Yu Chu Shui was up to. After nearly half an hour, Yu Chu Shui came out with Ning Yuan. Without saying a word, Zhao Yu watched the two. My name is Ning Yuan. I'm Yu Chu Shui's best friend. We promised each other that if we were to get married, it would be to the same man. Unexpectedly, by sheer coincidence, you've taken my virginity. If you dare betray either of us in the future, you're dead, Ning Yuan calmly stated. What? Zhao Yu initially thought Yu Chu Shui was playing some trick, but from Ning Yuan's words, it seemed like Yu Chu Shui was just introducing him to a woman. Did this mean she was worried about being outnumbered by Lu Siyu and Su Xiao, so she involved her best friend? Zhao Yu's previously calm heart began to race. He hurriedly got up to assure them of his intentions. At the same time, the towel wrapped around him fell, revealing his toned physique and something rather intimate. Both women turned their heads, put on some clothes quickly. Zhao Yu, unable to control himself, swiftly went over and embraced both women. Yu Chu Shui didn't resist when embraced. She leaned into him comfortably. Ning Yuan tried to wriggle free, but Zhao Yu's strong arms held her tightly. As she failed to escape, she gave in. It's our first time. Couldn't you be a bit gentler? Zhao Yu, who only intended to take some advantage, took Ning Yuan's words as an open invitation. How could he resist? What followed was an intimate scene involving the three of them. Lately, what's happening to me? I feel so primal. Lying in bed, flanked by two sleeping beauties, Zhao Yu was reflecting on his recent behavior. He noticed that he had been particularly lustful lately. A little lapse in control, and he would become a beast driven by primal desires. Could this be a side effect? Zhao Yu suspected that his excessive desires might be linked to his crossing to this world without fulfilling the original host's wishes. Though there's no concrete evidence, he felt his hypothesis was probable. He understood he must win over Lu Siyu soon. Otherwise, he might transform into a beast without reason. By then, without a clear mind, he'd be worthless to the Su family. Not just his life, but the lives of the other women might also be in jeopardy. Zhao Yu adjusted his schedule over the next few days, reducing work hours and spending more time with Lu Siyu. Zhao Yu would typically spend his morning and afternoon seeking out Lu Siyu, discussing finances, expressing love, and indulging in feasts. In the evening, he'd either return to the estate to stay with Song Han or head to Yu Chu Shui's place for their intimate trio encounters. After several days, Zhao Yu distinctly felt a change in Lu Siyu's feelings towards him. Especially her eyes, they seemed increasingly tender. Just when he thought that Lu Siyu was waiting for the day he would marry Su Xiao before taking the next step, One day, after concluding a day filled with romance, Lu Siyu, unexpectedly, didn't return to her dormitory. Instead, after a passionate kiss with Zhao Yu, she made a tempting invitation. Zhao Yu, shall we sleep in the back seat of your car? Zhao Yu understood she had mentally prepared herself. Of course, he had no objections and immediately agreed. He drove to a secluded parking spot, and they both settled in the back seat. After a while of intimate teasing, when Lu Siyu seemed almost overwhelmed, things naturally progressed, and they consummated their relationship. It was at that moment, as Zhao Yu shared a particularly close moment with Lu Siyu, he heard a long-missed system notification. Last wish completed. Obtained first clone. Obtained Galaxy Soul Fragment 11. At the same time, Zhao Yu's consciousness instantly expanded. In the blink of an eye, he became one with Zhao Yu, who was far away on Earth. The two consciousnesses merged and knew everything that had happened to each other in the past 10 days, including all the memories of their bodies and senses. Zhao Yu realized that the past 10 days did feel like a long time on Neptune, but on Earth, the timescale was very short, and almost nothing was done. The only information he had was that Colonel Chu's fleet had traveled more than 100 light-years through the wormhole and was still heading toward their destination. I have indeed been affected. After fused together, only then did he realize that according to his personality, he would not be so impudent. It was obvious that he had been affected by some kind of irresistible force, which made him become full of bestial nature. Solar System Moon. After absorbing the memories of his first avatar, Zhao Yu immediately sought out Uncle De and briefed him on the situation on Neptune and the circumstances his first identity encountered there. Uncle De drafted a new development plan. In as short as a month, they could legitimately obtain control over the entire Neptune. After sorting out these matters, Zhao Yu proceeded to the base control center. With a hint of uncertainty, he inquired the system about the information on the Galaxy Soul. Galaxy Soul can be used to break through base levels. Zhao Yu was greatly shocked. The information he had gathered so far was that the key to a level 3 civilization's inability to break through to a level 4 civilization was the Galactic Heart Fragment. Currently, the only 5 fragments were occupied by level 4 civilizations, and the Milky Way Empire was one of them. Can a level 3 base break through to level 4 with the Galaxy Soul? Zhao Yu asked nervously. Yes. After receiving an affirmative answer, Zhao Yu immediately became excited. This meant that there was still a chance for everything. As long as he obtained the one completed set of Galaxy Soul in the remaining 10 months, he would be able to break through to level 4. At that time, he could change the world and overthrow the brutal rule of the Milky Way Empire.
The Galaxy Soul /Io.
The moment the first clone succeeded, I was given a fragment. According to the instructions, 10 fragments can be used to complete the Milky Way Soul, so I only need 9 more clones? Zhao Yu secretly calculated. He became excited again. Zhao Yu directly activated the descent procedure of his second clone. Just like the previous experience, his soul seemed to have been divided. A brand new Zhao Yu, with all his memories, was carried by the system to a certain planet in the Milky Way. A new journey had begun.
Ugh.
Zhao Yu found himself lying on a bed inside a tight-sealed metal room. In the next second, a flood of memories rushed in. 7 nations, trapped on the planet, initiating nuclear war, world's end, rise of the mutated beasts. Zhao Yu, billionaire, built his own underground safety shelter. Apocalypse arrives. Took in 3 sisters, mistreated them, drugged, poisoned to death. After assimilating all the memories, Zhao Yu still felt a bit dizzy. Firstly, technology level was once in a state similar to Earth's. However, the trajectory of its tech tree seemed skewed. Instead of advancing towards space, it charged into biotechnology. With remarkable results, they created gene potions that could enhance lifespans and boost individual strengths. Everything seemed to be prospering, seemingly moving towards a brighter future. Yet, unexpectedly, the new ruler turned out to be a warlord, launching nuclear warfare recklessly. One after another, other nuclear-armed nations retaliated after suffering initial setbacks. Thousands of megacities were destroyed, billions of humans perished. The world was completely enshrouded by nuclear radiation. The old order shattered, and the apocalypse began. To make matters worse, In the irradiated areas, some creatures underwent countless genetic mutations and began to feed on the nuclear radiation, breaking biological limits and growing wildly. From that point, humanity realized their dominant status was gone. Mutated beasts had become the new rulers of the planet. Humans tried to reunite, only to discover that their ultimate weapon, nuclear bombs, actually accelerated the growth of these mutated beasts. It was like trying to fend off a dog with a meat bun. From then on, humanity lurked in the shadows, facing challenges like water and food shortages, civil conflicts, and the ever-present threat of the mutated creatures. The modern civilization was nearly wiped out, and humanity regressed to an era where individuals and families were the primary units of society. The original Zhao Yu, the one from before the time travel, was once a billionaire of the old world. Although not an influential figure, he had more options than the average person. Not only did he build a 100-square-meter underground nuclear shelter during the nuclear war, but he also spent a fortune to purchase a level 1 power gene potion, gaining some capital to survive the apocalypse. This world is truly chaotic. A few years ago, before the nuclear war had erupted, humans were relatively harmonious, retained some sanity, and lived normal lives. But with the emergence of the mutated beasts and the ensuing chaos, violence and robbery became common. Stepping out without a gun meant being a sitting duck. However, as time passed, the rapid expansion of the mutated beasts impacted this area. In the past month, even the nearby trading markets were occupied by a mutated beast sized about 10 meters. Every night, the original owner would venture out searching for food and water, but always returned empty-handed. As the memories zoomed in, a peculiar expression appeared on Zhao Yu's face. He realized that the host seemed to be a little perverted. The three sisters had been saved by him a year ago. At that time, the original owner was very polite and used a month's time to pursue the three sisters' eldest sister, Su Menglan. From then on, he began his way with her. F***CK. The host is actually a sadist. Zhao Yu was speechless. The original owner of the body was more or less violent. He used a whip to whip Su Menglan, burned her with cigarette butts, and even strung a ring on her groove. His methods were cruel and perverted, making Zhao Yu feel a little uncomfortable. How did one die? Wait, how did the host die? Zhao Yu sped up his browsing and quickly saw yesterday's memories. During this month, he destroyed the agreement with Su Menglan. He did something to her two younger sisters. He tricked the second sister, Su Xiulan, into her room and forced her to have sex with him. How shameless! Zhao Yu was a little embarrassed. He did not expect to transmigrate to such an original owner, especially his last wish, which made him speechless. The original owner's last wish has been detected. Complete a foursome with the three sisters of the Su family. What is the floss thinking? Zhao Yu was speechless. If I had such a dying wish. It was even more painful to be Lu Siyu's bootlicker. Wait. I still have not figured out how did I die. Zhao Yu realized that the original owner seemed to have suddenly fainted while sleeping. If he did not find out as soon as possible, this clone of his would be gone. Zhao Yu looked around the room and stood up to check it. There was nothing strange. He thought for a moment and looked through his memories of the day before. In order to ensure that he found the source of the danger, he carefully checked every detail, including the part where the host raped Su Xiulan. After rummaging through his memories, Zhao Yu found something unusual. It was after the original owner had forced herself on Su Xiulan that Su Menglan came over and questioned him about why he had broken the agreement. Not only did the host not feel ashamed, but she even executed Su Menglan on the spot. As he moved, he even cursed and said that she wanted to take down her third sister, Su Sulan, as well. Along the way, Zhao Yu noticed that Su Menglan stared him with killing intent. Did she do it? Zhao Yu felt that he might have found a hint. From here, he pushed back his memories. Soon, he compared it with his memory and found something wrong. The original owner's underground shelter was more than 100 square meters and had 7 to 8 rooms. The safest place was where he was sleeping now. Even the door was made of steel. Only he could enter and exit, and he carried the key with him. There seemed to be a 10-minute span where the key around his waist disappeared. If Zhao Yu wasn't able to pause his memories, he might have completely missed this detail. Beyond that, he also noticed that an hour before, when the original owner returned to his room, the cup on the table had been shifted by a centimeter. This meant someone had entered his room and tampered with the cup. Zhao Yu picked up the cup from the table and examined it carefully. He discovered a barely detectable layer of white powder at the bottom of the cup. He turned the cup upside down and gently tapped it on the table, causing the powder to pour out. Zhao Yu observed the substance closely. He couldn't identify it but suspected it was some kind of poison. So, the original owner was poisoned to death. And the one who poisoned him? The 10 minutes when the key around the original owner's waist disappeared was precisely when he was with Su Xiulan for the second time. After Su Minglan confronted the original owner and wasn't satisfied with how their encounter played out, or perhaps out of resentment, the original owner sought out Su Xiulan again. While the two were occupied, someone silently entered the room and took the key from the original owner's pants lying nearby. It must be Su Minglan. Zhao Yu felt overwhelmed. Under these circumstances, how was he going to fulfill the last wish? Force the three sisters? Such an act would challenge Zhao Yu's moral boundaries. After all, he has been self-disciplined for long, and this kind of act really disgusted him. How should one deal with Su Minglan? This woman tried to poison me. Zhao Yu scratched his head, thinking that if Su Minglan saw he wasn't dead, she might very well attempt to poison him again. Poison is hard to defend against. If she tried once more, he was not sure if he could withstand it. No, I definitely wouldn't survive. Zhao Yu realized that if this body could resist the poison, he would not have transmigrated here in the first place. However, this body was indeed robust, filled with muscles. This was not only due to the strength gained from the gene potion, but also because the original owner exercised daily. At the very least, in terms of brute strength, he could take on all three sisters by himself. Zhao Yu thought, the most pressing issue right now is to eat. He felt an emptiness in his stomach, perhaps related to the body's exertions today. Zhao Yu looked down and blew away the white powder that had been spilled on the table. After a moment, he gave a shove, and with a crash dash, the cup on the table was knocked to the ground, shattering into pieces. Big sister, is he really dead? In the room opposite the master bedroom, Su Xiulan was riding on a bicycle-like device. Her feet kept pedaling as she said nervously, "As long as he drinks the water, he will definitely die." Beside her, Su Minglan was also riding a bicycle. This was the power generator that Zhao Yu had prepared for the fallout shelter. Using the pedal to create mechanical power, it drove the coil to rotate and generate electricity. The power storage equipment in the base had aged after several years of use, and its efficiency had decreased significantly. Up until now, they had to step on it for 12 hours a day to ensure a day's electricity consumption. They only used it to boil water and cook. Other high-power electrical equipment could not be used for a long time. In the fallout shelter, there were two sets of power generation equipment. One was manpower generator, and the other was a diesel generator. It was abandoned a year ago because all the gas stations in town were empty. Su Xiaolin's expression was a little complicated as she said nervously, "Big sister, if he dies, can we live?" Over the past year, the three sisters had basically lived in the fallout shelter. Other than occasionally taking the place of their eldest sister to carry the feces to the ground to take a look, they had almost never left. All the information about the outside world came from Zhao Yu. "Xiulan, don't be afraid. Even if one have to risk my life, I will protect you and Su Lan." Su Minglan reached out her hand and patted Su Xiulan's head. Su Xiulan's heart ached when she saw the faint scars on Su Minglan's wrist. In the past year, she had naturally witnessed Zhao Yu's abuse of Su Minglan. She had told her elder sister several times that she wanted to leave this place, but Su Minglan had always held her back. A woman who had endured Zhao Yu's abuse for a year for the sake of the safety of the two sisters had killed that man today. She did not need to think to know that it had something to do with Zhao Yu forcing her today. "Xiulan, does your body still hurt?" "It doesn't hurt." Su Xiulan shook her head. In the past year, she had been pedaling her bicycle to generate electricity every day. Her physical fitness was very good. It was just that she had some pain at the beginning. Now, she didn't feel anything at all. Sigh. Su Minglan immediately felt a little guilty. "It's all my fault. I thought that he would abide by our agreement. Big sister, you've already paid enough for me." Su Xiaolan was originally worried about whether the three sisters would be able to survive after Zhao Yu died. However, now that she thought about it, it was good that Zhao Yu was dead. At the very least, her eldest sister did not need to be tortured anymore. Yes, as long as the three of us sisters work together, we will definitely survive, Su Minglan smiled sweetly and said. She made up her mind. As soon as she confirmed that Zhao Yu was dead, she would immediately go up to the ground to search for food. Crack! At this moment, a crisp sound came from the master bedroom opposite the room. The two pedaling stopped. Big sis, Su Xiaolan exclaimed in a low voice. Don't panic. Just pretend that nothing happened. Su Minglan took a deep breath and said. Zhao Yu should be dead by now. Zhao Yu immediately came in the room and saw the two sisters who were riding opposite him. Minglan, come and clean my room. He waved his hand and said. The sisters looked at each other. The pedal under Su Xiaolan's feet had stopped moving. Let's fight it with him, she said softly. Don't be rash. Continue to pedal. Su Minglan quickly stood up and walked towards Zhao Yu's room. Looking at Su Minglan's back, Su Xiaolan's eyes turned sour. However, she did not dare to show anything. She could only lower her head, afraid that Zhao Yu would notice something unusual. Now, she hoped that the poison could kick in as soon as possible before he was about to torture his sister. Zhao Yu turned around and returned to the house. He went to the safe and began to search for the password according to his memory. In the host's memory, there were guns and ammunition in the safe in his room. It was a good time to check how many bullets he had left. Su Minglan walked in and saw Zhao Yu squatting in front of the safe. A trace of disgust and hatred flashed in her eyes. She turned around with a blank expression and looked at the room opposite her. There, Su Xiaolan was standing up with her head lowered. She was frantically pedaling as if she was venting all the anger in her heart. Sigh. Su Minglan sighed in her heart and slowly closed the door. Creak. Zhao Yu was stunned when he opened the safe. Other than the two pistols, there were also some knives and whips. The host was worried that the three sisters would rebel, so he kept these sharp things that could be used as weapons in his safe every time. He understood that the original owner must have known that what he had done deserved to die, so he had been on guard against the three sisters. But he didn't even think about it. If they really wanted to kill someone, almost everything in this room could be treated as a weapon. One had to know that humans evolved from beasts. Before they could use their hands flexibly, they had always relied on their teeth to survive. If Su Minglan was really ruthless, she could even bite through wood, let alone flesh and blood. After checking the bullets and pistol, Zhao Yu closed the safe. He turned around and froze on the spot. In the room, Su Minglan had already stripped herself naked. At this moment, she was kneeling on the ground with her back facing him, looking like an obedient slave. Zhao Yu didn't feel the slightest bit of charm. Instead, he felt waves of shock. There were scars all over Su Minglan's body, crisscrossing vertically and horizontally. It was a terrifying sight, especially those two sets of the interme had been carved on them by someone with a knife. Zhao Yu quickly went forward and held her up. During this process, Su Minglan was very obedient. She was like a puppet, and her entire body exuded a numb aura. Bastard! Zhao Yu let out a long sigh and cursed the host again. He couldn't help but grumble in his heart. Why did the system choose such a body for him? What should he do? Zhao Yu picked up Su Minglan's clothes and helped her put them on one by one.
Su Minglan rimai motion.
She would only move when she needed to raise her leg. At other times, she was like a dead person with lifeless eyes. After putting on her clothes, Zhao Yu looked at Su Minglan, who was standing straight and motionless. The words that were originally on the tip of her tongue to ask her to tidy up the cup were all swallowed back. She was really a woman with a hard life. Zhao Yu picked up a broom and began to sweep the broken glass shards on the ground into the trash can. Su Minglan's originally wooden eyes suddenly lit up. A cup. There was no water. The dry condition on the ground only indicated one thing, which meant that Zhao Yu had drunk the water. This also meant that he did not have much time left. It would not be long before the poison took effect and he would die. Before that, he had to be steady and endure. No matter what he did, he had to endure. Su Minglan secretly warned herself that she must stabilize her state of mind and hold on until the moment of Zhao Yu's death. She was very clear about the huge difference in strength between the two of them. His hands could carry her entire body in the air for an hour without rest. This power was the effect of the genetic potion and his daily training. In a head-on confrontation with Zhao Yu, the three sisters did not even have a 10% chance of winning. After Zhao Yu finished sweeping the trash, he turned around and said, "Go and boil some water and heat up some food."
I'm hungry.
Aren't you going to whip me? Every time she entered this room, she would be beaten up and abused. She felt fortunate that she had been spared a round of torture. After Zhao Yu died, she could cut him less with the knife. Zhao Yu called Su Minglan in because he wanted her to see him drink the water with her own eyes. His goal was to pass on a message to her that his body was highly resistant to poison to a certain extent because of the gene serum. This way, she could give up the idea of poisoning him. After all, his body was not really resistant to poison. If this woman continued to poison him, it would really be impossible to guard against. Zhao Yu hesitated for a moment, but still followed her when she went out. He was worried that this woman would poison the food, so it was better to keep an eye on her. However, if he continued to monitor them, it would be tantamount to telling them that he knew that they had poisoned him. This would make Su Minglan think that the cup of poison water that she had put in was not enough. This would make her continue to think of ways to poison him. Therefore, Zhao Yu chose to do the work himself and boil water to cook. "Just let me do it." Su Minglan was terrified and quickly snatched it away. "No need. I'll do it myself," Zhao Yu smiled and said casually. His gentle smile was extremely terrifying in Su Minglan's eyes. Could it be that he wanted to make a move on Su Lan? Su Minglan's whole body trembled. The more abnormal Zhao Yu was, the more afraid she was. Plop! Her legs went limp, and she fell to her knees. Zhao Yu was stunned. What's wrong? At this moment, Su Minglan only had one thought in her mind, and that was that Zhao Yu wanted to lay his hands on her third sister, Su Lan. The only thing she needed to do now was to stall for time until the moment Zhao Yu died from the poison. As she thought of this, she opened her mouth and squirmed a few times. She slowly spat out a sentence that she felt ashamed of, but it was very suitable for stalling for time. "Master, please whip me."